talk to me about Phil. But let's go back back to the decision when Phil decided he was going to compete. Did you make the suggestion? Did he call you up? How did that all go down?
No, I think it was definitely him. I mean, it was something that, because with that major surgery, it was questionable whether he was going to come back at all.
Right.
And even though we knew that he looked good, but it was just his midsection was always going to be whether it could stay together. And it was something that he had made a decision, and also he has a documentary going on. I mean, it was kind of like he had this whole thing that he was working on. So it was a decision that he had made, and that was something that it was holistic.
Did you agree with it? Were you all, in other words, were you all in on it, or were you like, maybe that's not the best idea?
I'm always going, hey, look, let's see what happens with this physique, because I know how good he's been. I know how dominant.
But I'm asking your instincts. Your Hany Rambod's
instincts. I'm always a pessimist. I'm always chasing better. I'm always wanting, you know what I mean? That's how I am. Like in my head, when I say that because I'm always trying to say, how can you get to the 11 look? How can you get to the 13 look? How can you get to 16 look? So for me, I always knew that people were always going to draw their eyes to his midsection. And I knew his midsection could be better than it was, but is it going to be like it used to be before the surgeries?
Never. Yeah, it was never going to be that.
There you go. You answered that question. Yeah. So it's not going to be the same. So, but does that make him still formidable? And can he be that? He's still formidable, and can he still mix it up with any of these guys? And honestly, if I thought he had a little more time, like a back-to-back year, you got to remember, he took 27 months off, Dave.
I know.
That's the thing.
That's a long time.
But I'm always trying to go after what's better. I don't look at the glass being half full. I look at it as half empty. When we would win shows, and I would always the next day start thinking, what do we got to do to be better? Because I'm a perfectionist. Right. That's just how I am. Right. Love it or not, that's just how I'm wired.
Yeah.
So for me, I was always looking at trying to make sure that he can improve, and what are the things he can improve on. And that's my mentality, and it's always been the mentality. And I know that he was always going to be compared against his prior versions of himself.
I felt that he did. Yeah, I felt, you're right. I felt like he didn't have all his size back. Would that be an accurate assessment?
I think so. I think that you got to remember, when Jay came back in 2009, okay, and again, I worked with Jay in 2009. He ran back-to-back years. He didn't have a major surgery. No, he just lost, and him and Chris, whatever the formula was, it didn't work out. He lost to Dexter. He came to me, we started putting together a game plan, and he went back-to-back years. Phil took 27 months off.
Yeah, that's
and
tough.
He couldn't train for the whole 27 months because he had 6 inches of mesh put into his midsection. So I don't know anybody out there that has 6 inches of mesh that's, I don't even know if there's anybody in there that competes at the top pro ranks that has 6 inches of mesh in their midsection, let alone top 5 or top 10. So when you start adding those things up with a 27-month break, that's where you really got to start looking at things going, okay, I knew he had to grow into the show. I knew that he was going to have to grow into the show because he didn't have all that time to be able to do the things he did. But again, he didn't make any excuses. He didn't even want to talk about, we didn't talk about it. It's not something that he was going to put out there because he's a warrior and he wanted to be able to do, he knows what he can bring. And he brings, even the way he looked at the Olympia this year, he has certain things where these other guys don't. Some of that three-dimensional size and shape and separation, that back double bicep, and some of those things, even if he wasn't at his biggest or his best, he still has certain things that these other guys don't. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's what we were hoping that he was going to be able to edge out a lot of people on.
Yeah, I didn't think he had the Phil Heath wow factor that we're used to seeing, and I think people were judging him against his previous best. That was like you said, the problem. When you there is some rumors floating around. I was listening to like a Fuad podcast. People were floating around stuff that you and him weren't even working together for this show. Is that a lie?
No, yeah, that's a lie. That wasn't the case. I think a lot of people maybe thought that because normally I'm with my athletes several times throughout the year.
Yeah.
But because of COVID, there was no travel. I mean, especially with California being so locked down and some, there was nobody coming or going. Right. So the only person that ended up coming out here, and he came out because he was really worried and rightfully so, was Andre. So Andre came out, my men's physique competitor, because he was getting ready to do his second pro show ever, which is the Olympia.
Yeah.
So he came a month early and just posted up here in Northern California the whole time.
Gotcha.
And was able to come into a nice top 5 finish. He looked great.
Smart move on his part.